Another Wendell Wallace production for your listening pleasure. Wendell Wallace here, so get on up and get on down. Time to shine, moving to the soul number by the genius, though Stevie Wonder, as I thunder into the next episode of the podcast that is unique, complete with sports take and opinions that are thought-provoking. I ain't no joking like the God Rakim, so let the talent and flow of my show begin. I introduce to you this podcast named Wendell's World in Sports, so please give me a round of applause as I try to pause in your cause or theory that clearly there is not a sports talk podcast that could fulfill your appetite. Delight in my podcast and let your listening ears digest the best program that demands and commands your full attention, as I have no pretensions about the amount of dimension my program goes into. If I'm losing, I'll come back and win the game like the Astros of Houston or the Mariners of Seattle. I'll rattle the podcast and cattle and chattel with a program that soars with the vocal strength of Maria Callas, along with being devastating and dominating like the defense of the Cowboys from Dallas. So, no more words out of you, not a whisper, murmur, or peep. The price for you to compete is way too steep. Like Matt Hardy, I will have your podcast on delete. The beatdown will be sound incomplete. Motivated by my hero, I try to make my comments powerful like the legendary icon Malcolm X. I flex my communication skills that kill the competition when I come correct. Detect those who are using yawn-inducing dialect. So if you want any piece of me, in the words of Bill Goldberg, you're next! Wendell's World is Sports. Watch, enjoy, like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and download, subscribe, follow, rate, review, and enjoy anywhere, anyhow, anyway you listen to your favorite podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most unique, entertaining, and compelling sports talk podcast you'll ever listen to.
Let's be great. Let's be great.
Wendell's World in Sports with the one and only Wendell Wallace.
Giannis charging down the lane to the rim, double clutch, no good, tipped in. Giannis tipped it home.
Subscribe, rate, and review anywhere and everywhere you listen to this and all your favorite podcasts. And now, from Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, rip, roaring, and ready to rumble, Wendell Wallace.
And welcome to Wendell's World in Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. A lot of things to get down on and discuss today in the world of sports. My NBA preview, I am recording this on a Wednesday afternoon. By the time I put in all the highlights and download and do all those type of things, it might be Wednesday night, it might be Thursday morning, depending upon where you are watching this episode of Wendell's World of Sports. Nevertheless, special dedication for those who are listening. If you could do me a favor, if you would please, if you are listening, watching this program, listening to this program, you like what you're listening to. If you're watching this program and you like what you're watching, speaking of the single ladies between the ages of 42 and 49, do me a favor, would you please? If you could just subscribe to my YouTube channel, if you could go ahead and like this video, leave a comment, talk about how good I look, talk about, wait a minute, that's not Wendell Wallace, that's Denzel from 1997, ain't it? If you could do those type of things, I really would appreciate it. And then if you think that I look like Denzel Washington from 1997, either go to the eye doctor or go to a psychiatrist, because you probably need both. But nevertheless, I hope that you're having a great day, I hope that you're doing well, and I hope that you can do those things. And if you are not interested in watching this episode, if you would rather listen to what I'm talking about concerning the world of sports, anywhere where you listen to your favorite podcast, iTunes, iHeart, Amazon, Spotify, if you could go there, download, subscribe, rate, review, most importantly, as always, enjoy the most unique, entertaining, thought-provoking sports talk podcast that you can listen to. If you can do that, either one or both, man, I would very much appreciated. All right, let's go ahead and get started with what I want to be speaking about today, which is the start of the NBA season. I might need your help, though. I might need to ask you this question. I've been dying, I've been thinking, I've been dreaming, I've been wondering, I've been pondering. Should I get the NBA League Pass this season? Now, circumstances has it to where I'm going to be spending a lot of time at home. Before, in the past years, one of the reasons why I didn't get the NBA League Pass, because a couple of nights of the week I wouldn't be at home. I would be doing something else, which would require me to be in another part of the state of Arizona, of Nevada. So I never really wanted to go ahead and I get the NBA League Pass. Plus, it's a situation where I could watch an NBA basketball game 7 days a week if I wanted to. I could watch the NBA on Tuesdays on NBA TV. I could watch the NBA on TNT on Thursdays. I can watch the NBA on Wednesdays and Fridays on ESPN. I could watch the NBA on NBA TV on Saturdays. The NFL was on Sundays and Mondays. So, I really didn't have the yearning to pay for the NBA League Pass when I could watch the NBA for free on other networks and other channels. And now that I have a little bit more time, and one of the things is I don't want to be a hermit. I knew that if I got the NBA League Pass, the social life, which I have no life to speak of, would be even worse if that's even possible. So I kind of eschewed from going ahead and getting the League Pass. Now I'm kind of itching to see if I want to go ahead and do that. So in the next couple of days, I'm going to decide. I haven't seen the free pass. Normally they have the free preview for a week, and I usually geek out and watch all of those games. I watch my Washington Wizards and other teams that I don't have an opportunity to watch on a regular basis because they're not on ESPN, they're not on TNT, and a lot of times they're not on the NBA TV channel, to where the Washingtons and the Sacramentos and the Indianas and the Orlandos go to die because the major networks aren't putting those teams on their telecast. Plus, I also have the Lakers feed. I also have the Clippers feed. I can watch them on Fox Sports West, the LA Clippers, and I have the Laker channel, to where I can watch all the Laker games on channel 66. So again, it just goes into my thinking: why would I need the NBA League Pass when I have all these other opportunities, these other free avenues to go down to watch NBA basketball? But we'll see. We'll see. Wendell's World of Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with you here on this NBA 2022-23 preview of the season that's coming down, that's going to be happening. Now, I'm not one of these guys. Yes, I'll go ahead and I'll be speaking about, and I'll be talking about, and I'll be pontificating, and I'll be giving my thoughts and opinions and prognostications about who's going to win the NBA championship, who's going to be representing the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals, who's going to be winning the NBA MVP and all that type of stuff. But normally, especially this early in the season when the season just starts, and this goes for all sports that I talk about, that I pontificate on, that I give my thoughts and opinions about, whether it's the NBA or Major League Baseball, which I rarely touch, or the NFL and such. I normally not on the first week of the season start talking about, okay, my prediction for the NBA champions are going to be the Golden State Warriors. They're going to repeat, or Boston's going to get over the hump and they're going to claim victory and get revenge over the Warriors in the NBA Finals, and Luka's going to win the MVP and the first team All NBA and the most improved player and the guy that's going to win the score. I don't do any of that stuff. Do you know why? Because I just want to sit back and enjoy it. The NBA, just like all sports, it's the greatest reality show that there is. It's the most realistic reality show that you can have. So I don't know. I don't know exactly who's going to be winning the NBA championship. I don't know who's going to be winning the MVP. I don't know who's going to be the best team in the Eastern Conference. I don't know. I can't tell you right now. Injuries, trades, chemistry, we don't know. I mean, hell, it could be the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets could be the best team in the Eastern Conference. The Brooklyn Nets could be the team that could win the NBA championship, and the Brooklyn Nets could be the team that by the end of the season, Kyrie Irving is gone, Steve Nash is fired, and Kevin Durant wants the hell out of there. We can repeat the same soap opera that the Nets and Kevin Durant went through and danced with this past offseason. So I don't know. Maybe it's the Milwaukee Bucks. Maybe it's the Boston Celtics. Maybe it's Phoenix. Maybe it's Golden State. Maybe it's a team that we're not thinking about, like Denver or Dallas or Memphis or Cleveland. I don't know. The reason why I'm saying this is because for the first time in a long time, man, the NBA is about parity. I think this is the period of time and over the last 3 or 4 years when you're speaking about the NBA and you're speaking about parity. And the NBA has been built on dynasties, correct? The NBA was built not just on George Mikan, but also the Minneapolis Lakers at the start of the NBA the league itself, the Lakers, the Minneapolis Lakers with George Mikan, they were the ones that kept the league afloat. They were the ones that introduced the league into the American public. Then from the Minneapolis Lakers with George Mikan, it went to, of course, the Boston Celtics with Bill Russell and the rivalry that he had with Wilt Chamberlain, and then the Los Angeles Lakers with Elgin Baylor and Jerry West. But you're speaking about the dynasty of the Boston Celtics winning 11 championships in 13 years during the late 50s and 60s. Then in the 80s it was the Bird and Magic Lakers and versus Celtics. Then you had the Chicago Bulls, and then you had the Lakers again and the San Antonio Spurs. What I'm trying to say is, for the first time in probably 50 years, man, the first time in 50 years, we don't know on a regular basis. There is no true dynasty. There is no Boston Celtics of the 60s. There is no Chicago Bulls of the 90s. There is no Miami Heatles of the early 2010s. There is no team right now. We can speak about the Golden State Warriors, but the Warriors have some leaky parts. The Warriors have some weaknesses. The Warriors right now are not a lock. The Warriors are definitely not the team when they had their dynasty in the later half of the 2010 decade, to be matched up with the team that just won the NBA championship this past year, namely because the Golden State Warriors of this past NBA ilk doesn't have Kevin Durant, doesn't have the Klay Thompson that Klay Thompson was when the Warriors were winning back-to-back championships and 3 championships in 4 years. So, it's a whole entire different game when you're speaking about that. So, parity is awesome. Parity is fantastic. You realize from 1970 to 1979, right, when you take a look at the NBA champions, and when you take a look at the NBA Finals, you take a look at the champions. The New York Knicks won 2 championships in 1970 and 1973 during that decade. The Boston Celtics won 2 championships, 1974 and 1976. Guess what? After that, it was just one-time wonders. Whether it was the then Lou Alcindor, Oscar Robertson, Bobby Dandridge Milwaukee Bucks, who won the championship in 1971, or the Rick Barry-led Golden State Warriors, coached by Al Attles, who won the championship in 1975, whether it was the Bill Walton, Maurice Lucas, Jack Ramsey, Portland Trail Blazers, who won the championship in 1977, whether it was Bullet Fever, they got past the Iceman, the Washington Bullets, my Washington Bullets, the last time they saw relevance as an NBA franchise with Elvin Hayes and Bobby Dandridge and Mitch Kupchak and Wes Unseld and Kevin Greavy and those guys winning the championship. Dick Motta, the Fat Lady Sings, 1978, just a young lad beating the Seattle Supersonics Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Then in 1979 to round out, to end the decade, the Seattle Supersonics in 1979, Gus Williams, Dennis Johnson, Jack Sikma, downtown Freddie Brown winning the championship in 1979. So when you take a look at the NBA today, and you take a look at, that period of time compared to it now, I see a lot of similarities in terms of the parity. Going into each one of those seasons, there was a favorite to win an NBA championship, but there wasn't an overwhelming favorite to win a championship. In fact, during that decade, the 1970s, from 1974 to 1979, each conference and a different team won themselves a championship. So we take a look at that period of time. In the 1980s, it was owned by the Los Angeles Lakers, the Boston Celtics, with the 1983 Philadelphia 76ers, Doc getting his one championship ring, Moses winning the MVP in that season, becoming a legend in terms of his dominance, winning in 1983, the 76ers of that year, becoming one of the best teams of one season to win a championship, to dominate, to league beating an ill-ridden LA Lakers squad in the 1983 NBA Finals, the Detroit Pistons winning the title also in the 80s. But other than that, it was Celtics, Lakers, Celtics, Lakers, Celtics, Lakers. 1990s, owned at the beginning by the Pistons, that they repeated, Bad Boy Pistons. Then after that, Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls with Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant first said, okay, thank you very much, we'll go ahead and do that. And then after the Houston Rockets took advantage of Michael Jordan playing Major League Baseball for a little bit, Jordan came back, got beat by Orlando, got Dennis Rodman, and then came back and won 3 more championships, 6 championships in 8 seasons, man. The team of the 90s, without question, was the Chicago Bulls. Then the 2000s, it was owned by Kobe and Shaq of the Lakers, then Tim Duncan and the San Antonio Spurs. So the 2010s, you had back-to-back, the decade started with back-to-back championships by the Miami Heatles of LeBron and Dwayne and Chris Bosh, and then Golden State took over and then won and dominated the last half of the decade. So what I'm getting at is, for a little while, man, it was kind of, I wouldn't say kind of boring, because NBA basketball, to me, is never that boring. But, I mean, there was a couple of seasons where the season was just a wrap. When the Golden State Warriors got themselves Kevin Durant, coming off a season where they won 73 games and was a Draymond Green nut punch away from winning that championship, and a Klay Thompson fourth quarter explosion in the Western Conference Finals against the Oklahoma City Thunder away from, possibly losing. But in the end, the Warriors went 73-9, losing to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland, we did this for you! But after getting Kevin Durant, man, it was a wrap. You went into the seasons knowing that unless Steph Curry and Kevin Durant went down, and both of them had to go down with season-ending injuries or injuries during the most inopportune time in the playoffs, you knew, for the most part, that the Golden State Warriors were going to be winning the championship. Even with a strong team from Cleveland, which had LeBron and Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving and such, you knew that in the Eastern Conference, the Cleveland Cavaliers were going to be going to the NBA Finals, and you knew that they were going to be facing the Golden State Warriors, and you knew that the Warriors were going to win the Super Bowl. So that whole year, it was kind of like, what are we doing? This is just an exercise in futility in terms of other teams. This is just, just wasting time here, because we know what's going to be happening. I mean, it was almost like a situation. Remember in wrestling where The Rock came back, and at WrestleMania he beat John Cena to win the WWE then E or F, I don't know what it was, but championship. And then for that entire year, as soon as he won at WrestleMania, the plot line or the script was set, written in stone, that John Cena was going to beat The Rock at the next WrestleMania to win the championship belt. So for an entire year, it was like, what am I even doing watching this program? We all know what's going to be happening. I was saying this in May, I was saying this in June, I was saying this in July. Why am I watching wrestling? Why am I watching WWE? When I know that the biggest wrestling event of them all, WrestleMania, next year, 11 months, 12 months, 10 months down the road, is already set in stone to where John Cena is going to be winning the championship back from The Rock. Why am I wasting my time? Why am I investing myself watching anything concerning wrestling? And if you were a fan at that time of any squad, speaking back to the NBA, if you were a fan of a team that was just pretty good, why would you invest any emotion into that team when you knew that they had no chance in hell? If you were a fan of a squad in the Western Conference, you knew as long as Kevin Durant, as long as Steph Curry, along with Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, you knew that those guys were going to be relatively healthy, that your team had no shot whatsoever to win the championship. So if you were a fan of Damian Lillard, cry more tears, because he wasn't going to be winning any more championships, or he wasn't going to be winning championships during that time. If you were an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, you call up the sports animal and talk to Eric G and Coach Jones and whine and complain about how Kevin Durant left your squad and now you have no chance because you just have Russell Westbrook, Steven Adams, and nobody else. And how we were a fourth quarter away from winning ourselves a championship and keeping Kevin Durant, and now that's not possible. So during that time, it was almost like with the NBA, it was like, I don't know if I'm really interested in this product. I don't know if I don't know if I'm interested in this brand. I don't know if I'm interested in this league. That's not the case now. That's not the case anymore. Going into this season, this is going to be the fifth straight season where a team is not going to be repeating as champions if the Warriors don't repeat. So there's not, despite the fact that we're in sort of a mini dynasty with the Golden State Warriors because they rebuilt from their dynasty in the last half of the 2010 decade. And then they came back after stumbling, after crumbling to the ground, rebuilding a championship and winning. The team of this Golden State era with Steph, Klay, and Draymond is clearly not on the same level that was the dynasty between 2015 and 2019. So, again, there's not a dominant team. It's not a fait accompli that the Golden State Warriors are going to be winning a championship this year. And it's not a fait accompli that they're going to be facing the Boston Celtics. And yes, we all say parity's awesome and parity's wonderful, but I remember people whining and crying and complaining about the NFL having parity. Then the New England Patriots came along and started dominating, and everybody was whining and crying that there isn't any parity. So basically, you just let the thing play out, and you just take the haters with the haters and the lovers with the lovers. So look, this season, going into this season, it's all about parity in the NBA, man. It's all about parity in the NBA. There's not a dominant champion, but a really good number of teams that could win a championship. Yes, absolutely, man. You could see the Golden State Warriors, the Boston Celtics, the Los Angeles Clippers, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Phoenix Suns, the Brooklyn Nets winning a championship, the Philadelphia 76ers winning a championship, the Miami Heat winning a championship. But, man, you can also see, couldn't you also envision the Denver Nuggets, the Memphis Grizzlies, Dallas Mavericks, Cleveland Cavs? Couldn't you see them vying, competing, not being the favorites to win a championship, but competing? Isn't that a good thing? Isn't that a good thing that we're not going into this season talking about, okay, let's hurry up and get to June so we can see Golden State beat Cleveland for the NBA championship, and Michael Jordan lovers can start dancing in the street like Martha the Vandellas and dancing on the ceiling like Lionel Richie because LeBron James didn't get his championship, and Michael Jordan sheep can sit there and talk about, see, Jordan's better. So that's something that we don't have to deal with. Mentioned before here on Wendell's World of Sports, the podcast speaking about the 2022-2023 NBA season. This is my preview episode speaking about the Golden State Warriors, the reigning and defending champions. Won the championship last season from pieces of the dynasty, as I mentioned before, from 2015 to 2019. The team of that foundation built on Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, then acquired Kevin Durant, making them one of the most dominant dynasties of all time. After that, after Kevin Durant took his skills to the boogie down in Brooklyn, after Steph suffered a wrist injury, after Klay blew out his knee, after Draymond got bored because they weren't going to be contending anymore, so we stopped really putting in the passion and the effort to be a champion. And after that 2019 loss to the Toronto Raptors in the NBA Finals, and Kevin Durant blowing out his Achilles during that season after coming back, or during that series after coming back after injuring his Achilles against the Houston Rockets in the Western Conference Finals, they had to rebuild. They had to start over. They went 20-62 or some nonsense like that. So they went ahead. They missed on having the immediate impact, if you remember, from the crumble and the rumble and the destruction of what was the 2019 season for the Warriors, finishing again 20-62. I think it's the 2020 season, where they finished the season 20-62. They got the number 2 draft pick, and instead of drafting LaMelo Ball, they went for Memphis center James Wiseman, who only played 3 games as a rookie, as a freshman that year for Memphis. So could you imagine this team if they had LaMelo Ball on it? Their defense would be a lot worse. But, so this was a situation in the short term. We don't know about what's going to be happening long term, but in the short term, Bob Myers missed on that draft pick. If you're speaking about what led Golden State back to the top of the mountain and being champions again, it wasn't based on who he drafted in the 2020 draft at the number 2 position. Now, Jonathan Kuminga might turn out to be a really good player. Moses Moody might turn out to be a really good player. And James Wiseman might be a great foundation to go along with Jordan Poole to have Golden State remain competitive along with Andrew Wiggins once Steph and Klay and Draymond move on in the next 3 or 4 years. But, that 2020 draft, which the Warriors drafted James Wiseman, that wasn't the reason why the Warriors were sitting at the top in 2022 as NBA champions. The key to winning was, of course, the return of Steph, being one of the top 5, 6, 7 players in the game. Last season averaged 25 points per game. Draymond Green getting himself reacclimated with getting his shape, stopped drinking during the season, drinking alcohol, not drinking protein or green smoothies. As he said, he just started caring about winning again. So some of the bad habits that he accumulated while the Warriors stunk out loud, he put them aside, rededicated himself, motivated himself to get in shape to be an above-average defender and a really good passer and initiator on offense, the ascension of Andrew Wiggins as a wing defender and a reliable third or fourth scorer, Jordan Poole becoming a reliable scorer and playmaker, all blended into the acquisition of getting Otto Porter, the defensive acumen of Gary Payton Jr., of course, the coaching acumen of Steve Kerr, the defensive coordinator Mike Brown. Putting it all together, the Golden State Warriors came back and took advantage of whatever happened to Phoenix in Game 7 against Dallas, took advantage of that, took advantage of Chris Middleton getting injured during the Boston Celtics series, which basically torpedoed any hopes that the Milwaukee Bucks had of repeating. So instead of facing the Milwaukee Bucks, a healthy Milwaukee Bucks team in the NBA Finals, the Warriors went against the Boston Celtics, who the Warriors were a better team. They won an NBA championship. Hey, I'm not making excuses. I'm not saying put asterisks by these guys. I'm just telling you it is what it is. And another reason why I'm saying this season is going to be so enjoyable to watch, because, again, there is no dominant team in the NBA. And, again, that scenario that I just gave you in terms of the Warriors winning the championship is another reason why I don't go on and on and on in mid-October, and start talking about who is going to be winning the NBA championship and who should be the favorites and all those type of things, man. You never, ever, ever know. Again, which is why the NBA and sports in general is the greatest thing going, the best reality show going. Wendell's World in Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. So just giving you my previews, my thoughts, and my opinions about the upcoming NBA season. So just going to stay on the Golden State Warriors for just another second before I go ahead and take a boogie break. Not saying that the Warriors shouldn't be favorites, but there's some interesting developments that I want to watch concerning the whole situation with Draymond Green, Superman punching Jordan Poole in a practice. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see that when you speak about drama, when you speak about what's going to be happening. Draymond Green in a heated practice. And look, man, when you're Draymond, when you have that intensity, when you have that passion, when you're wired that way as a competitor, whether it's during the regular season, whether it's during the playoffs, whether it's during a championship, when you see the carrot, or when you see the prize for your hard work, for your dedication, for your enthusiasm, your thirst to win a championship is realistic, then yeah, Draymond during practices, like any other champion, Draymond like any other great player, Draymond like any other player who has a desire to win basketball games. It doesn't happen. You don't turn it on when it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals. You don't turn it on when it's the start of the NBA playoffs, man. When you're that type of competitor and you're that type of when you have that type of passion for winning. With Draymond Green, this is something that's 24/7 in terms of his basketball prowess is concerned. His basketball, playing the game of basketball. So during a heated practice with Jordan Poole, those guys were talking trash. Those guys were calling each other bitches and punks and all that type of stuff. And any of the guys who have played in the NBA, the great players who have played in the NBA, who have spoken about this, I mean, they all say, hey, man, this is something that happened all the time in terms of heated practices, competitive practices. Well, you think Michael Jordan was slacking during his practices? You think Magic Johnson didn't call out some people during his practices? You don't think Larry Bird verbally destroyed people during his practices? You don't think that the great players went after the weak and tried to separate the weak? You don't think Kobe Bryant did everything to his teammates to try to make them quit the game of basketball during that time? You don't think we heard about Michael Jordan punching Steve Kerr during a practice? You don't think those things go on? I think, again, what made it so, took it to a next level, because when the fight was first reported, Bob Myers came out and was like, no big deal. These things happen, competitive. We'll get past this. Everyone's apologized, blah, blah, blah. Then the video came out, and it was like, oh, shit. I mean, he tagged that motherfucker, and he tagged him hard. I mean, again, that was something where you see in an MMA fight, Superman punching somebody. I mean, I haven't seen something like that since Anthony Pettis. I haven't seen something like that since Jose Aldo. I haven't seen something like that in a little while. And I definitely haven't seen something like that on a basketball court. So the video of it made it so horrible. Made it next level to say, ooh, shit, this, that, and the other. Man, he tagged him pretty hard. So, look, it was, then we started the speculation of why this punch took place? Was it stemming from the fact that Draymond had not received a contract extension or wasn't going to receive a contract extension? Meanwhile, Andrew Wiggins signed his money, signed his extension and got his bag. Jordan Poole signed his extension and got his bag. And now you're going to be taking a look at the fact. Now this all went down before Wiggins and Poole got their extensions, but I'm quite sure that Draymond was in the loop or had the knowledge to know that these things with Poole and Wiggins in terms of their extension we're going to get done. And meanwhile, Draymond is on the island of no extension, and there's no life raft, there's no love boat, there's no 3-hour tour from Gilligan to go pick him up. So he's sitting there going, man, what's up with this? You know, I'm the guy who won 4 championships. I'm the guy who was the defensive player of the year. I'm the guy who's done all this for the organization. I was the guy that started when Mark Jackson was the coach here and we were losing and we weren't getting out of the first and second round of the playoffs. I was here during that building point. I was here, and not only was I here, I was a pretty doggone important piece of the rebuild and the championship. Not only the dynasty that we had from 2015 to 2019, but also repeating as champions in terms of rebuilding and getting back to the top of the mountain in 2022. And all of a sudden now you're going to give this Canadian Andrew Wiggins a big bag. All of a sudden now you're going to give Jordan Poole a big bag because he's cool with Steph. I'm cool with Steph. Where's my money? Where's my thank yous? Where's my bow downs? Where's my kiss my feet? Where'd my throw rose petals at my feet when I'm walking through the arena and through the practice facility in terms of not petals but money? Where's that with me? He's not getting it, so maybe that was a little bit sour. Maybe that made him a little bit bitter. Maybe it made him a little bit angry. Who knows? Green may be left out when everything is all said and done. He still has a $27 million player option for his 2023, for the 2023-24 season that he can choose to exercise. But, I mean, this is going to be the last contract that Draymond is going to be getting of any significance. And he wants to maximize on that. Green is what now? Approaching his mid-30s? And he's not the player that he once was, the style that he plays and everything. Of course, that's expected. That's to be expected. So, yeah, Draymond wants his money, and Draymond was pretty upset about it, and Draymond took it out on Jordan Poole. Now, the Warriors went ahead and they didn't fine him or suspend him. Why? Because the Golden State Warriors are trying to win a championship. And again, it was a situation where you're going to alienate a guy like Draymond, the emotion that comes from Draymond. You're going to alienate him. You already felt his wrath when you suspended him because of the altercation that he got into during a Clipper game with Kevin Durant a few years ago. And the organization sided with Kevin Durant because they were doing everything and anything to make Kevin Durant happy, even though anything they tried to do seemed it didn't work. But the organization went with Kevin Durant on that and made Draymond Green look like the bad guy, the villain, the scapegoat. So now if the Warriors were going to do this again and suspend him and do all this type of stuff, you think that was going to be advantageous for the Warriors moving forward with this? You want that bullshit? You want that nonsense? You want that storyline to be lingering over the team for how many weeks or how many days? Now, man, don't cross that bridge if you don't have to. So they just find him. We need Draymond to win championship games. This ain't CYO. This ain't high school basketball. You know, you get paid to play. You get paid to win. You get paid to perform. You get paid to entertain. You get paid to bring people championships. And the Golden State Warriors, that organization, just like the rest of the organizations in the NBA, are charging a pretty penny for fans to come out and watch their team play. So you want to put the best product on the court. And making a moral decision about, yeah, we can't tolerate that, and we need to send a message to the greater good and to character and all this kind of nonsense. Nah, man, you do what you need to do to put a team that's going to win a championship on the field, on the court, on the ice, in the arena, whatever. And that's exactly what the Golden State Warriors did in terms of not suspending Draymond, but just fighting him. So it's fine with me also. You know, I don't know what took place after everything happened. Maybe Jordan Poole is cool with this in terms of, look, man, it happened. I'm not thrilled about it. Me and him ain't going to be best friends. I'm not going to name my first kid after Draymond. Draymond ain't going to be the godfather of my kids. You know, when everything is all said and done and he leaves next season to go play for another team, we ain't going to be hitting up each other on social media or texting or anything like that. I'm not going to come on this podcast. But I want to win just as much as Draymond. So I can go ahead and work with him. I can go ahead and when we're between the lines and when we're on the court that we can do our thing. And then afterwards just say, see you later, have a good one. I don't need to be best friends with everybody. Are you best friends with everybody you work with? Are you best friends with everybody that, even people that you hang out with your best friends? Are you best friends with them? No. So it works. Those guys will be able to get along and get on. So, yeah, man. The Warriors repeating, doing their things, might have a couple of bumps, have a couple of potholes on their path, on their drive, on their road down to Repeatsville, as far as winning that championship is concerned. As far as repeating as NBA championship, they're going to minimize Klay Thompson's minutes. He didn't get as many minutes in the first game last night against the Los Angeles Lakers, a game in which Golden State won pretty easily. First game was the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics. Boston winning that game 126 to 117. So, yeah, man, there's going to be for Golden State. Again, there's other questions, not just with Golden State, but with other teams in the Western Conference who are going to be trying to take that mantle, that moniker, that title from the Golden State Warriors, known as champions. So we will see what happens. But the NBA, full of parity. The news stories are going to be great. The headlines are going to be fantastic. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of intrigue going into this season, both on and off the court. The NBA has started. As everybody knows, the NBA is the love of my life. In terms of the professional leagues are concerned, if I could just go ahead once again and explain myself, the NBA is my Halle Berry. The NBA is my Layla Roshan. The NBA is my Vivica A. Fox. The NBA is my Monica Bellucci. The NBA is my Selma Hayek. The NBA is the love of my life. The NBA is my dream woman. The NBA is my favorite. My favorite sports team, of course, the Georgetown Hoyas. Marriage, death, do us part. Life without parole. But when it comes to just the top, the cream of the crop, if I could use that cliche in terms of my love for sports, NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL, and the NBA, without question, my wifey, the bow down, the most important thing at the NBA. And man, I am so glad that the NBA season is here. Last segment of the podcast, last segment of the program. Thank you so much for listening to Wendell's World of Sports, the NBA preview episode of the 2022-23 NBA season. Thank you so doggone much. Again, if you are liking what you are listening to, if you're liking what you're seeing, yes, single ladies, ages between the ages of 42 and 49. Hey, man, I'm single. Of course I'm going to be begging. I'm like the Temptation, baby. I'm like Paul Williams. I'm like David Ruffin. I'm like Otis Williams. I'm like I'm like those guys. I ain't too proud to beg. I'm not too proud to beg. Come on now. I mean, Levi Stubbs might be my guy, but I ain't too proud to beg like the Temptation. So, yeah, if you're single, if you're attractive, between the ages of 42, 49, black, Asians, hey, just go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're good looking, I don't care what race you are, but especially if you're black or Asian. Woohoo! But getting back to the NBA season before I make a bigger fool of myself, some of the biggest news of the offseason, which is going to leak itself, blend itself into the regular season. Speaking about drama in Brooklyn, right? This Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving whole situation. I don't know what you want to call it. What do you want to call it? Nonsense? Distraction? I don't know what it is. But, man, those guys are good for off-court drama, right? I mean, you got the real skanks of Atlanta and Potomac and Salt Lake, but known as the Real Housewives. I like to call them the real skanks. You got the ass clown hood rat from Love and Hip Hop and Chicago Inc. on VH1, where they exploit us and make us look like idiots. More on that later. More on that on another podcast. But basically, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving could fit in with them skanks. Fit in with them ladies in terms of just the head scratching, eye rolling, jaw dropping, you gotta be kidding me stuff that they do sometimes. More Kyrie than KD. KD just sometimes look like the most miserable human being who's ever walking the earth, man. KD usually just kind of looks like, do I really have to be here? Do I really want to be here? Do I really want you around? The answer to all of those questions is no, but hey, they provide good fodder. They keep the NBA in the spotlight, I tell you that much. So it's like, hey, the only bad news is no news, right? So if you remember, the biggest off-season, the court news this past offseason was Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving requesting trades. If you remember, 1 week after it was reported that Irving and the Nets were at an impasse in a contract extension, remember, because Sean Marks came out and said, look, we want guys here who are dedicated to the team. We want guys here who are going to be team-oriented. We want guys here that we can count on. We want guys here that we can trust. So basically, instead of guys here, he just should have put Kyrie Irving. Really, if that was going to be the situation, but there was that little drama. So, Irving said, "Well, I want a long-term contract," and of course, the Brooklyn Nets were like, "How in the world are we going to trust you with a long-term contract when we don't know what's going to be happening with you day to day?" So, Irving then, surprisingly, picked up his $37 million player option to remain in Brooklyn for the 2022 season, or trying to pick up that option and see what the Nets could do to trade him. So when all that drama went down, KD, who's his homeboy, after all this and saw the way that the Nets were treating him, and then he saw the way Steve Nash was coaching, and he saw Sean Marks the way that he was GMing, he said, get me out of here. I want a trade request. So Chris Haynes of Yahoo Sports reported that numerous stars tried to get in touch with Durant after he went public with his I want to be traded, not public in terms of putting his face in front of a camera or a microphone and saying this, but reports were that Kevin Durant wanted to be traded, that, again, Yahoo Sports' Chris Haynes reported that, stars tried to get in touch with him talking about, KD, what's going on, man? What's happening? You want to be traded, this, that, and the other? But Durant had gone dark. We're not answering anyone texts or phone calls or anything like that. I don't know if he called up Dave Chappelle and said, "Hey, Dave, remember when the Comedy Central offered you $50 million and you said, I'm out of here, and you went to South Africa and you just kind of disappeared? Exactly where did you go? Because I'm in the same situation. I want to just do the same thing that you did." But basically, he went dark. No one said anything. No one saw him or did something like that. So after a few months of going back and forth, and I want to be traded to Miami or to Phoenix, and if you get rid of Sean Marks and Steve Nash, maybe I'll reconsider, but for the most part, I want to be out of here. And Joe Tsai, the owner of the Brooklyn Nets, and Sean Marks and Steve Nash said, look, man, you've got 4 years and $192 million left on your contract. We can't trade you to the places that you want to go, and we're not going to trade you for nothing. We have 4 years. You have 4 years, $196 million, or some obscene amount of money. Guess, and we could play this game, guess who has all the controls? It ain't you, it's us. And we know how much you love to play the game of basketball, so you have two options. You can report, or you can do a Ben Simmons. Which one is it going to be? And I know you don't want to do the Ben Simmons in Philadelphia. So which one is it going to be? So he had a meeting with Joe Tsai and Sean Marks, and he came back and said, no, we're good. Everything's good. We're fine. We decided to move on, this, that, and the other. But wasn't it fun during that time? Wasn't it fun during the summer? You didn't have football. You didn't have Aaron Rodgers asking to be traded. You didn't have Russell Wilson asking to be traded, even though eventually it was. We didn't have Deshaun Watson asking to be traded or any allegations. We didn't have any of the NFL drama concerning quarterbacks that would keep us occupied during the dead period of sports, the summer months of July and August and such, before football started. Wasn't it nice to have Kevin Durant keep us interested in sports and Kyrie keep us interested in sports with what they were going on? Thank you, KD. Thank you, Kyrie. So here we are, man. Start of the season, right? And the Nets are going to have their big three players not only on their roster, but also will have them on the court and ready to play together at the same time. Kyrie, Ben Simmons, that whole Ben Simmons stuff. So Kyrie, Ben Simmons, and Kevin Durant. So what's going to be happening? Where are we going with the the Brooklyn Nets? What's going to be happening with this squad, man? You tell me, because I don't know. I have no idea. The Brooklyn Nets are the biggest boom or bust team in the NBA, right? I mean, even more so than the Phoenix Suns. I have no idea what's going to be happening with the Brooklyn Nets. This could be a situation where they could win a championship. Far-fetched, but they could win a championship, or they could compete for a championship, or they could make it to the NBA Finals. Or we could be looking at a team that's going to get blown out in the first round of the playoffs, and everybody hates everybody, and the Nets decide to blow this thing up. And we're right back to where we started at the end of last season. Shaking our heads, scratching our heads, talking about what in the hell happened to the Brooklyn Nets and what's going to be happening to them. You got to remember, man, right? Because when Kyrie Irving left the Boston Celtics to join the Brooklyn Nets, and he took Kevin Durant with him, took him from the Golden State Warriors, and they took DeAndre Jordan with them. And they signed, and even though Durant was going to be missing that season because of the torn Achilles he had suffered in Game 6 or Game 5 of the NBA Finals against the Toronto Raptors the year before, and he was going to take the entire year off to rest, to rehab, to rehabilitate, and get that thing straight, that this was a situation where it was like, man, the talking points and the discussions were like, man, are the Brooklyn Nets going to be the team that's going to win multiple championships, and the Brooklyn Nets going to be the most most talented team in the league and all this type of stuff? And how many championships are they going to win with Kyrie and KD? Are they going to win 2? Are they going to win 3? Are they going to win 4? Then they went out and got themselves James Harden and was like, oh my goodness gracious, who's going to stop this team, right? You've got 3 players who at the time were projected, at the time were thought of to be top 10, top 12 players. Kevin Durant, top 5. James Harden, top 5. Kyrie Irving, top 8 or 10 or 12, right? So you were thinking to yourself, man, who in the world's going to stop this team? Who in the world's going to be able to defend this team? You know, James Harden whined and complained and nightclubbed his way and partied his way out of Houston to Brooklyn. And it was like, oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, the Nets basically mortgaged their future to get James Harden, but oh my goodness gracious, this team is going to be unbelievable, right? Well, then Kyrie does his bullshit and nonsense and everything. James Harden comes into the season fattened out of shape and injured, and all of a sudden now he wants out of there, and he gets traded to the Philadelphia 76ers for Ben Simmons, who had his own issues, to say the least, in terms of mental health and back injury and mental midgety in terms of his ability to step up in big games. See Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Atlanta Hawks, passing up on a layup and that type of thing. His porous free throw shooting in the fourth quarter, especially when it counted. So it was a situation where Ben Simmons gets his butt hurt because Doc Rivers didn't kiss his feet, or Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers organization didn't show him enough love after his porous performance and his heart-pumping Kool-Aid performance against the Atlanta Hawks. So because of that, he's never going to play for the 76ers again. So this, that, and the other, so they better trade me. And the 76ers were like, we're not going to trade you. So he didn't show up. And once he started losing money, it was like, oh, wait a minute. I have a mental illness. Yeah, my mental illness is I'm getting really depressed at the fact that I'm not making any money because I want to be somewhere else other than the place I need to be where I can make my money. So he went from that to all of a sudden now I have a back issue. And it was like, well, when did you have a back issue? Last time we saw you in the playoffs, you weren't saying anything about a back issue. When did this happen? So basically, Ben Simmons was trying to do everything humanly possible to get himself that money that he was losing from sitting out by not reporting to the 76ers, or when he did for one day, was such a hindrance, was such a negative impact that Doc Rivers sent him home. And the Philadelphia 76ers were saying, we're not going to pay you to sit at home. And Ben Simmons said, well, I'm not coming back to Philadelphia. So basically the 76ers said, fuck you, we ain't going to pay you. And then Ben Simmons said, fuck you, I got mental illness and a back issue, pay me. So all of this nonsense, all of this drama, all of this whatever happened to where he gets traded to the Brooklyn Nets, and all of a sudden now it was like, okay, well, Harden got traded for Ben Simmons, but Simmons is a guy who's a versatile defender, and he's a great passer, and he can play point forward. He can take some of the pressure off of Kyrie and KD and let them do what they do best, which is score and this, that, and the other, and we'll see what happens in the playoffs. Well, funny thing happened on the way to the playoffs, and when they got to the playoffs, Ben Simmons didn't play. He was still hurt. So basically, it was a season that went down the drain, and it was Kyrie and Ben Simmons flushing the handle that had that season go down the drain. It didn't hurt that, although it didn't help that Joe Harris, the only guy who could shoot from the outside of Steph Curry, was a guy, or Seth Curry was injured, but still. I mean, it was that whole drama, that whole situation. How much now bringing that into this season with the Nets? I mean, are they closer to winning a championship, or are they closer to where they were last season? Are they closer to winning a championship this season, the Brooklyn Nets, with Simmons and KD and Kyrie? Are they closer to winning a championship, or are they closer to being not even making the playoffs? And then all hell is going to break loose. Then they're really going to have to rebuild again. Where are they? I have no idea. I can't tell you. I don't know. Because with Kyrie and these guys, it's day to day, man. It's not season to season. It's not year to year. It's not month to month. With these guys, as it's been reported throughout their careers, it's day to day. I'm not around Kyrie Irving. I'm not around Kevin Durant. I'm not around Ben Simmons. So I don't know how they operate. I don't know what they're like. I don't know how they are. I don't know how they are as teammates from a more personal point of view, because I'm not there. I can only go on what's being reported. I can only go on by their actions from the outside looking in. And from the outside looking in, I have no idea what Kyrie Irving is going to be doing 1 week from now. I don't know what Kyrie Irving is going to be doing 1 month from now. I don't know what Kyrie Irving is going to be doing. I don't know where Kyrie Irving's mindset is going to be 3 games from now, 5 games from now, 50 games from now, 82 games from now. I don't know. Who knows? Is he going to ask for another person to leave? Is he going to take up another cause that's going to cause him to miss more games or some games? Is the relationship between Kevin Durant and himself going to fracture, stay stronger, get stronger? I don't know. Ben Simmons, what's going to be happening with Ben Simmons? Are his teammates going to get tired of his attitude? And, I mean, how is Ben Simmons now going to acclimate himself to the new role that he had with the Brooklyn Nets? I don't know. The great part is you don't know and no one else knows, which, again, makes watching sports, the NBA, so much fun, because we don't know. We can guesstimate, we can pontificate, but we don't know until it plays out. And it's awesome. Last season, Irving missed 53 games because he wouldn't get vaccinated. He's only played an average of 35 games over the past 3 seasons. So with all of the mercurial type of things that makes up Kyrie Irving, also he's not the most durable human being either when it comes to playing basketball at the NBA level. Simmons, as I mentioned before, missed the entire season because of mental health and back issues. Durant missed time because of injuries. In fact, he missed all of, once again, the 2019-2020 season with a ruptured Achilles. And he's only played 30 games, or 90 games, He's only played 90 games over the 2 seasons since. So Kevin Durant is not a guy who's going to be Michael Jordan durable, AC Green durable when it comes to playing games in terms of the amount of games that he's going to be playing. So we don't know. The Nets are the biggest boom or bust team in the league. They have the talent to win themselves a championship and the combustibility not even to make the playoffs or be a complete train wreck or be a complete autopilot that you guys watch and stare as you're driving down the street, taking a look at the accident that happened on the road. Is a team complete enough to win themselves in a championship outside of KD and Kyrie? Can you trust Ben Simmons when things get difficult at difficult times? Can you trust Steve Nash, head coach Steve Nash? What has he shown us as far as coaching-wise is concerned that makes you confident that he can put together a scheme, that he can put together a situation or a plan that can be something that could be advantageous for the Nets? I mean, are you comfortable? Are you confident in the playoffs that the Nets play the Miami Heat, for instance? We know where the coaching advantage is going to be on that bad boy. I mean, you take a look at Mike Budenholzer and Steve Nash. We know despite all of the him and hawing and Mike Budenholzer can't do this and he can't do that and he's going to be fired. He needs to be fired. He can't coach. He doesn't play Giannis enough. And all that time, all those criticisms that Budenholzer was facing before he won himself a championship in a playoff situation between Budenholzer and Steve Nash, you going with as far as the advantage is concerned. So are you comfortable? Are you confident in Steve Nash being only a slight negative in coaching matchups during the playoffs? All of these things mixed in with just the personalities of the star players is going to be interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens as time goes on, because really, when it comes to those guys, man, Kyrie and such, every day is a new day. And we don't know what's going to be happening day after day after day after week after month after season. Wendell's World of Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you can be with us. So about the Boston Celtics, man. What the Celtics going to do, despite not having their coach, Ime Udoka. Terrific first season as the head coach after starting the season 25-25. Udoka being very honest, keeping it real with the players in terms of their effort, in terms of their performance, in terms of doing what he wanted them to do. Many scribes, many folks who follow the Celtics for a profession, we're sitting there talking about, man, I don't know how long this is going to last. You can't go into a press conference and start individually calling out players. You're going to lose them, coach. But after kind of getting the message, after gelling, blending, educating on each other, starting 25-25, the Celtics then dominated the last 10 weeks of the season, made them championship potential. We're up 2-0 in the NBA Finals, and then Steph Curry said, enough of this bullshit. I'm ready to rock and roll. We're up 2 games in the NBA Finals, and Steph Curry said, time for me to get it going, baby. So we all know about the offseason. Udoka was suspended because he was messing around, violated team rules, messing around with the female. I saw the female that Udoka was messing with. And look, man, you're going to leave Neil Long, and I don't know Neil Long as a human being. I don't know. All I know is from what she presents to me. So I don't know, man. I mean, maybe Yumeke is like, hey, man, behind closed doors, woman's a maniac. Good Lord. I mean, you sit there and talk about how in the world did David Justice and Eric Benet and all these guys leave Halle Berry? And they say, live with her. That's the reason why you live with her. That bitch is batshit crazy, even as good looking as she is. Jeez. So I don't know why Ime would do anything to jeopardize his relationship with Nia Long, especially with the female that he was messing with. But hey, man, that's him. But because of that, he was gone. He's being suspended for a year. Questions about whether he's going to even be the coach moving forward. I guess Joe Mazzulla, the 34-year-old head coach now for the Celtics, the interim head coach now with the Celtics, is going to have a lot to say about that. Minimal NBA or head coaching experience, but Brad Stevens, he was on Brad Stevens' staff when Stevens was the coach at Butler, also when he was the coach in Boston. So Stevens believes in him. So, all right, we'll see what happens. Will the Celtics then, with that hanging over them, will they maintain, will they improve, or will they regress this season without Udoka? Can Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown grow into a duo that can compete for championships for years to come? When you think about championships, when you think about duos who have won championships or championships plural, normally it's someone in the front court, someone in the back court. You think of Kobe, Shaq. You think of Duncan, Parker, Ginobili. You speak of Abdul-Jabbar, Magic. You think of Larry Bird, and you think of you think of Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale. You think of Dwayne and LeBron, and you think of Chris Bosh, even though Chris Bosh was not your traditional low post player in the mold of a Kareem or someone of that ilk. You speak of Mo Cheeks and Andrew Toney. You speak of Moses Malone. The only duo that I can come up with at the top of my head who was consistent in winning championships, more than 2 or 3, was, of course, Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, 2 of the greatest basketball players of their generation and 2 of the greatest basketball players of all time. When you speak about someone from Jordan being a shooting guard and Scottie Pippen built to play the small forward position, even though he could play some point forward and he had point guard skills and such. Tatum and Brown are trying to do that. Now, the injury that's going to keep Robert Williams III out for a little while is going to hurt them. I mean, you have Blake Griffin coming in to see what he can do about this. The kid the kid that went to Iowa, that went to Indiana for a year, then he got drafted high, and Noah Vonleh or something like that. I forget the guy's name at the top of my head, but they're going to be using those guys as stopgaps until Robert Williams III get back. But for the Celtics to maintain their level of competing for championship this season, Jayson Tatum is going to have to continue to improve. He's going to have to continue to improve. He can't just plateau just yet. Even if he would plateau at the age of, what's he now, 24, 25 or some nonsense like that? But, he's already a top 5 or 6 player, somewhere around that range. If you speak about what he did last season, the ascension from Jayson Tatum to grow into 12-time Tatum, the fact that he averaged 27 points, 8 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and had 35 points, 12 rebounds in the season opener against Philadelphia, has shown his growth. Averaged 25 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists in 24 playoff games last season before running out of gas. It looks like Tatum is on the ascension to be that guy. Jaylen Brown is going to be the key. Averaged 23.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists last season. Can Jaylen Brown, who I don't know where his mentals are, because, again, he was talked about in terms of the Boston Celtics getting into the Kevin Durant sweepstakes when Kevin was speaking about, I want to be traded. And, well, if you don't want to go to Miami or to Phoenix because they don't have the assets to get it done, we can go and speak to the Boston Celtics, or the Boston Celtics can call us up and say, well, let's kind of put together a trade that centers around Kevin Durant coming to us, and we'll send you Jaylen Brown. So how much will that cause as far as there are any internal problems moving forward? I don't think there'll be any, because he's going to be interacting with his teammates. He's going to be interacting with his coaches. None of them was in the meeting rooms when they were speaking about any type of trade possibilities that might have Jaylen Brown leaving the Boston Celtics. But it's just something to take a look at. I don't know. Jaylen Brown seems to be a very mature, strong character, strong-willed, intelligent guy from the outside looking in. So I'm going to trust that this is not going to have any lingering effects. But can Brown be that guy? Can Brown be that guy to be the foundation to let Jayson Tatum do his thing? If you let Jayson Tatum do his thing, it's kind of like the Four Tops, right? I mean, we've got Levi Stubbs in terms of him being Jayson Tatum, right? The king, the great, the awesome, the wonderful, the superstar, the unbelievable, the one that's going to be the catalyst, the captain of the ship, the one who's going to determine the greatness, the level of winning, the accolades of the group, right? I mean, Levi Stubbs was the reason why the Four Tops were so great. One of the main reasons why the Four Tops were so great, right? The reason why the Boston Celtics are going to be winning championships is going to be because of Jayson Tatum, right? Jayson Tatum is going to be the guy. Jayson Tatum is going to be the lead singer. Jayson Tatum is going to be the guy singing Bernadette. Jayson Tatum is going to be the legend. Jayson Tatum is going to be the Hall of Famer. Jayson Tatum is going to be one of the greatest of his generation, right? If the Celtics are to reach that plateau. So who's going to be Obi Benson? Who's going to be Lawrence Payton? Who's going to be Abdul Fakir in terms of what the Celtics are? Is it going to be Brown along with who else? So that'll be interesting to take a look at. The Celtics made an excellent off-season addition by acquiring Malcolm Brogdon, solid backup combo point guard who can relieve Marcus Smart of his point guard duties for portions of the game. I mean, so now we have, again, Abdul Fakir, Lawrence Payton, Obi Benson, Levi Stubbs being the main man. Equate that with the Boston Celtics. Jayson Tatum being Levi Stubbs. Hey, man, if you don't know the Four Tops, look them up and listen to some music. Listen to some real music. Don't be rolling your eyes at me. So Jayson Tatum being Levi Stubbs, Marcus Smart being Obi Benson, Malcolm Brogdon being Abdul Fakir, and I don't know, Jaylen Brown being Lawrence Payton. Come on, man. Let's get it together and let's get things done, right? Sugar pie honey bunch, that's what I'm talking about. So, again, Robert Williams, how much of an impact will the loss of Robert Williams III have? And, we'll see what happens. It was in a situation where, look, man, the Celtics got a couple of good breaks to make it to the NBA Finals, right? The Nets were imploding in the first round of the playoff. The Milwaukee Bucks lost Chris Middleton midway through that series in the in semifinals. And man, who did the Celtics play in the Eastern Conference Finals? I don't know. The point is the fact that did they play the Hawks? Who did they play? I don't know, man. It's racking my brain. But it's a situation where the only reason why the Celtics made it to the finals was because of the injury to Chris Middleton, or are the Celtics built to have championship runs after championship runs, unless something catastrophic happens with one of their core players being injured at an inopportune time. Wendell's World of Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. How much of an impact, speaking about the 2022-23 NBA season, how much of an impact, or what's going on with the Phoenix Suns? The great and the curious, I should say, we're speaking about the Phoenix Suns this offseason. Hey, the great thing is that, the great thing that happened for the Suns this offseason is the impending sale of not only the Phoenix Suns, but also the Phoenix Mercury from owner Robert Sarver. He's going to be selling the team. If you don't know, let me educate you. Sarver had a history of misogyny and racist misconduct for 2 decades in the workplace. During an investigation that took about a year, the NBA officials discovered that Sarver used the N-word, the N-word, basically he said nigger, on multiple different occasions throughout his tenure with the organization. So some other lewd, crude, misogynistic, and just asshole-ish type things. They were like, hey man, you've got to go. So basically, that's the good of the Phoenix Suns, right? It's good for the league to have a piece of shit like that as a human being, Robert Sarver, out of the league, right? That's a good thing. I'm curious about what in the world happened, and I still don't know. We still don't know. There still hasn't been any type of real explanation in terms of what the hell happened in Game 7 of the Western Conference semifinals against the Dallas Mavericks. What was that all about? And have the Suns recovered from what happened, where they were down and trailed by as many as 46 points, and Luka was laughing, humiliating, beating them? It was embarrassing. It was jaw-dropping to see what happened to that squad, to see what happened to that team. Have they recovered from that? Because at the beginning of training camp, there weren't too many smiles. I didn't hear anything from the leaders of the group, Chris Paul or Devin Booker. I didn't hear anything that made me say, oh yeah, they've gotten over that. Oh yeah, they're ready to rumble. Oh yeah, they're going to use that for fuel of the fire. Oh yeah, they're locked in. They're ready to go. I mean, hell, they lost they lost an exhibition game to a team from Australia. No disrespect to the Adelaide 76ers, right? Or the 36ers or the 26ers, or I don't know what number we're speaking about, but they lost to a Australian team. Now, it's preseason. It was on Australia, so I'm not, going to be jumping off any windows, or I'm not going to be jumping into Lake Mead or anything like that with an anchor tied around my neck. But still, it's like, man, what's up with this? Phoenix finished with the best season, 64-18. I don't know, was that lucky last season? Because everything, everything kind of went right for the most part. The Suns were one of 2 teams in the 68 seasons for which they have quarter by quarter numbers. They were the only team. They were only 1 or 2 teams to go undefeated, 47-0 in the regular season, 6-0 in the playoffs when taking a lead into the 4th quarter. 53-0 undefeated. That can't go on. That can't go on. So 64-18, I don't know if some of this was fortuitous. I don't know if it was just a 1-year deal. But you kind of equate some of the things that happened, lack of injuries, the 4th quarter deal, the way they executed down the stretch, Chris Paul remaining relatively healthy for him until another inopportune injury cost Phoenix a better opportunity to win a championship. But there was a lot of things that went right that I don't think you could be counting on to be going on this year, which contributed mightily to them winning 64 games. Can this continue? Can this go on? What's the relationship like between Senator DeAndre Ayton and his head coach Monty Williams? Have they spoken yet? Do you know? I don't know. Because the last time that we heard from DeAndre Ayton and Monty Williams, it was like, yeah, we're good, we're fine, we're homies, nothing going on here, nothing to see here. Have you talked to him yet? No. Like, oh, okay, well, interesting. I don't know if they talked yet. I don't know. Phoenix attempted to trade Ayton and Mikal Bridges to Brooklyn for Durant before being turned down. Then the Suns worked out a 4-year, $133 million extension for Ayton. That was nice. But Phoenix waited until mid-July to reach the agreement, which meant that Ayton was no longer eligible for the full 5-year, $179 million contract extension. Damn, now you fucking with my money. I'm supposed to be singing Kumbaya with these guys and let's get it together and all this type of nonsense. So, are there any lingering effects? How much lingering and how much of an impact of the effects that the scapegoating of DeAndre Ayton is going to have on the Phoenix Suns this year? We don't know. It'll be very, very interesting to find out, though. Wendell's World of Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. Can Phoenix survive the annual Chris Paul gets injured at the most inopportune time part of the season? He's 37 years old. Speaking of CP3, I mean, has he been hanging out with Jake from State Farm? Has he been continuing his regimen of being a vegan and working out and working on this core during the offseason? He's 37 years old. For the past 3 or 4 playoff seasons, he's gotten injured at the worst time. I mean, we don't know. We don't know moving forward. We got to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers, right? Oh, the Los Angeles Lakers. What are we to make of this squad, right? I guess it's my obligation to speak about these clowns. What are we to make of the Los Angeles Lakers this season? Because last season was an absolute disaster, beyond disappointment, beyond anyone's wildest dream. The trio of LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook. Let's just say it didn't work. Finished the season 33-49, missed the playoffs. James, Davis, and Westbrook played only 21 games together. They won 11-10 during that stretch, so it's not a situation of, well, if all of those guys just come back and, we're all healthy, then, if you saw in the 21 games, they were, 18-3. No, they were about average when those guys played together. They struggled when Westbrook played with only LeBron. They were 25-30. They were only 17-22 when Westbrook played with Anthony Davis. And the Lakers were also 0-5 with Westbrook as the number one option. Did you see that game last night against Phoenix? Against the Golden State Warriors? Did you see Westbrook out there? There were long periods of stretches where I didn't even realize that he was out there. And what does he give you if he doesn't have the ball in his hands? What does he give you when he does have the ball in his hands? And he's making $47 million. Now, in a game-to-game situation, that doesn't come into play. The Lakers didn't get blown out by the Warriors because Russell Westbrook was making $47 million, but still. You see him out there playing, and it's like, well, he had these nice numbers, and he had this nice play, and he's making $47 million, man. That's the most now? That's our hip hooray for Russell Westbrook to go out there and not embarrass himself? He's making $47. Yeah, I know he's overpaid, but still he's making $47 million. You got to give us something a little bit better than that, man. LeBron trying to catch MJ. Come on. So I don't know where this team is going. Because last season, Westbrook and Frank Vogel were the scapegoats. Too much criticism? Yeah. But did they deserve criticism? Yeah. Did they deserve a lot of criticism? Yeah. But the way this team was made up, come on, man. Dig up Red Auerbach. He couldn't get anything out of this team in terms of them winning a championship, right? The team didn't have any consistent three-point outside shooting. The team was old. They were slow. They were unathletic. They were poor on defense. Come on, man. You're going to win with Dwight Howard and Carmelo Anthony? You're going to win with Kendrick Nunn missing the entire season because of injuries? Malik Monk was the best offensive player not named LeBron or AD. But he didn't leave. He didn't stay because he left because of free agency to get his bag. So this team last year was just cuckoo-cuckoo in terms of what we're going to be doing to see what we can do to win any basketball games. And then you throw into that AD being inconsistent because of his injuries, LeBron missing time because of his injuries, and Russell Westbrook falling off the cliff as far as his efficiency is concerned and what they expected from him is concerned. I mean, what did you expect the Lakers to do? Where did you expect the Lakers to go? Everybody was speaking about, well, once AD comes back and LeBron comes back, then Russell, they'll be fine. No, they weren't. No, they weren't. You were relying on 87-year-old Carmelo Anthony and 136-year-old Dwight Howard to be doing some things. Come on, man. The only outside shooter that they had of any interest was Wayne Ellington, and he never got off the bench. I mean, near the end, you were relying on the kid from Oklahoma, the white boy from Oklahoma, to save your season and to help be an important player. Man, the name I forgot right now. I forgot. Is it Reeves? Reeves. First name I forgot, but it was like, come on, man. You're not going to win any. You're not going to help LeBron win any games like that. So, they were unable to sign Westbrook. There were many thought that they could try to trade him to Indiana to get Buddy Hield. Maybe that conversation comes up a little bit later on in the season, but they engaged in talks with the Utah Jazz and Indiana Pacers about Westbrook, but the Lakers didn't want to include their 2027 and 2029 first-round pick. So there you go. So this season, the Lakers try to get a little bit more athletic and try to get some youth in there. Brought in Lonnie Walker the fourth from San Antonio. No, not the first, second, or third, but the fourth. So they got something going right now. They brought in Troy Brown Jr., who was a bust, the first-round pick, the last NBA draft pick of Ernie Grunfeld with the Washington Wizards. Damian Jones they brought in. Thomas Bryant, former of the Washington Wizards, brought in. Dennis Schroeder, who though they didn't offer him 4 years and $84 million, but they brought him in. He's going to be missing some time because of surgery. They brought in Juan Toscano Anderson from the Golden State Warriors, who was a very good cheerleader and towel waver while the Warriors were making their run to the championship. But so they brought in some athleticism. They brought in some youth. But one thing they didn't bring in, what they needed the most, was outside shooting. Who are you going to be looking to be the outside shooter, to be the outside threat? We all know, especially now, with LeBron, with this year 19, year 20 in the NBA, this ain't LeBron James of 7 years ago. This ain't LeBron James of 10 years ago. This ain't LeBron James who can take over a game for any long periods of time. He doesn't have that impact anymore. He's still great. He's still wonderful. He's still a top 12, 15 player. But he's not the guy that we saw with the Miami Heat. He's not the guy that we saw with his first and second stint with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's not that guy anymore. So what do you do with LeBron to maintain his the skills that he has and help the team and maximize on the team? You put shooters around this guy because he still warrants a double team. He can still get to the basket. He can't finish like he used to, but he can still get to the basket, not with the same consistency as he used to, but he still can. He can take the ball off the defensive glass and go coast to coast, not as much as he could 5, 8, 10 years ago, but he can still do that. But most importantly, if you put shooters around this guy, that's how you maximize LeBron James. And who do the Lakers have as far as outside shooting is concerned? It ain't Lonnie Walker. It ain't Dennis Schroeder. It ain't Troy Brown. It ain't Anthony Davis. It ain't Toscano Anderson. It ain't Thomas Bryant. It's none of those guys. So who are you going to have to stretch the floor for LeBron? Not only for him to do a thing, but also to maximize on the chances for the Lakers to be good on offense. And defensive-wise, other than Anthony Davis, who else did you got to guard anybody? It's going to be a long season for the Los Angeles Lakers. I guess you could say that the only thing worth a damn for the Lakers to be watching is LeBron James becoming the all-time leading NBA scorer, right? Right? At this point in his career, averaging around 27 points per game, it was calculated that he's going to need about 48 games to put him on track to break the record by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which would be against the San Antonio Spurs on January 25th. If he plays every game between now and then. Now, if LeBron misses the same amount of games that he did last season, if you equate that in there, then you're speaking about him possibly passing Jabbar on March 10th against the Toronto Raptors. Mike Huttner's birthday, March 10th. Against the Toronto Raptors. So not only if that happens, will LeBron James pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, it'll be the only time that Mike Huttner will hear me say, I will love him because I love him as a brother and all that type of stuff, because that's his birthday present, because I will not say that other than that one time. So, yeah, so interesting. Very interesting. Other storylines here we'll be very quickly talk about on Wendell's World of Sports with your host, Wendell Wallace. How's James Harden going to play after a down year for him individually? How will he mesh with Joel Embiid and make each other better? Who's going to be the guy in terms of the number 1A? Can James Harden still be option 1A on a championship team? He physically looks pretty good. Still doesn't play any defense, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the 76ers. Still thinking that they're one of the teams that can compete for a championship in the Eastern Conference. I'll speak about Milwaukee. I'll speak about Miami and others as the season goes on. We know about Giannis, Jimmy Butler. Did you see Jimmy Butler with that hairstyle when he had the he looked like Brittany Griner, didn't he? Wendell's World of Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us. So look, I'll get into Luka and the Dallas Mavericks. I'll get into Denver with Nikola Jokic. It's going to be interesting with the return of Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray to go along with Aaron Gordon and the two-time MVP Nikola Jokic. Is it possible that the Denver Nuggets can compete for the NBA championship? What is the loss of Jalen Brunson going to do for the Dallas Mavericks, and how will Jalen Brunson affect the New York Knicks? I don't know, man. I think it's just going to keep them it's going to keep them on that proverbial treadmill in which they're not going to be good enough to win a championship, but they're not going to be bad enough to tank and get themselves a really good draft pick to improve. Welcome to the Tom Thibodeau world of coaching as far as an NBA squad is concerned. Quentin Grimes is supposed to be this guy that's supposed to be a breakout. Obi Toppin, we'll see what happens. RJ Barrett got himself a bag, so we'll see what he can do. We'll see if Julius Randle can rebound from a disappointing season after having an excellent season for the next 2 years after 2 years ago. So all of these things, can Emmanuel Quigley make the move and improve? So we'll see about all these things with the New York Knicks moving forward. But right now, let's talk about some other things as we end the program, such as teams that made some improvements through off-season trades, like the Atlanta Hawks trading for DeJounte Murray. Hawks got Murray from the San Antonio Spurs for Danilo Gallinari, who was then let go and was signed by the Boston Celtics, but tore his ACL, so he'll be missing the entire season. The Spurs also got Atlanta's first-round pick in 2023, 2025, 2026, as far as a pick swap is concerned, and 2027, as far as the first-round pick is concerned. How big of an impact is Murray going to have, especially on Trae Young? Because, man, Trae Young does a lot of dribbling. My man makes Russell Westbrook in his prime. My man makes Luka Doncic look like a guy who treats the basketball like a hot potato. Trae Young can dribble and take the air out of the ball like no other. How is having another guard who could handle the ball in DeJounte Murray, which can then free up Young to be more of a traditional shooting guard, coming off screens and catch and shooting type of opportunities? How much of an impact is Murray going to have on that? The Hawks signed Deontay Hunter, one of the better young 3-and-D guys in the league. But, it's a situation where he's also going to be bringing some type of defensive acumen to the Spurs also, to the Atlanta Hawks also, because last season the Hawks had none in terms of defensive intensity is concerned. And Young is on the side of James Harden when it comes to playing defense with any intensity or any type of passion or with any type of consistency or devotion. So we'll see what happens. Of course, the biggest trade, not just in the NBA but in sports over the past couple of years, was the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Utah Jazz. The trade that they made, the Jazz trading Rudy Gobert to the Timberwolves, and the Jazz getting Malik Beasley. Patrick Beverley, who they let go, was picked up by the Lakers. Jarrett Vanderbilt, a good young player. Walker Kessler, the Timberwolves first-round pick. And then the Timberwolves first-round pick in 2023, 2025, 2026, which was a pick swap, 2027, and then 2029. Basically, one of the biggest trades in NBA history for the Jazz, who also then traded Donovan Mitchell to the Cleveland Cavaliers, which got them Colin Sexton, to which they signed to a 4-year, $73 million contract. And, the Cavaliers sending their first-round pick, Lauri Markkanen and Colin Sexton, and another bag of first-round picks to the Jazz. Jazz basically are breaking down. And I will say this, as far as being a president of basketball operation or a guy who puts together a team, Danny Ainge is much better. His tracker shows that he's much better when he's being able to draft players to build a team rather than trades and that type of thing. We saw what he got by trading Kyrie Irving, but this was also a guy who traded Jayson Tatum, and this was also a guy who engineered the trade with the Brooklyn Nets for a boatload of first-round picks when they traded Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett to the Nets back in the day. So I think in this situation, hey man, Danny Ainge is better rebuilding squads or building rosters or building organizations through the draft than he is through trades. And for the Minnesota Timberwolves, they wanted to get better and they wanted to take the defensive responsibilities in the paint off of Karl Anthony Towns so we can concentrate more on offense and three-point shooting and such. Rudy Gobert gives them that advantage. I just don't know what it's going to be like to have two 7-footers playing in today's NBA, especially when you're speaking about Karl Anthony Towns, who's more of a floater around the perimeter than he is being able to punish a smaller defender around the basket. He's still going to be able to do that, but I think that Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, that's going to be an interesting matchup. That's going to be an interesting duo to watch. And then the improvement of Anthony Edwards, being one of the better scorers, being one of the more dynamic players in the NBA, one of the young fellas, one of the young bucks coming up. So those are some of the things that I'm going to be looking for. I'll be speaking about the return of Zion and Kawhi, and is New Orleans ready to make that next step? With Zion back, healthy, he lost 30 pounds. He looks great. Now you got a squad in New Orleans with Brandon Ingram, C.J. McCollum, Herb Jones, Zion, Jonas Valanciunas. That's their starting five. That's pretty decent. That's pretty good. That's making it past the play-in game type of season for the New Orleans Pelicans. But hey, man, you know what? You're going to have to contend with Denver, who got, as I mentioned before, Michael Porter and Jamal Murray back. You're going to have to be contending with the with the LA Clippers with the return of Kawhi. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And, of course, Victor Wembanyana. Let me end with this. Teams that will be tanking for Victor Wembanyana, who I think is going to be controlling a lot of the narrative in the NBA this season. Normally, if we had a guy in college, we had this with Adam Morrison years ago. We had this with Jimmer Fredette years ago. We had this with Zion Williamson a couple of years ago, to where college blending in with the NBA in terms of, hey, you got to watch, you got to cover, you got to pay attention because this guy's outstanding, this guy's unbelievable, this guy's a great story, this guy in a year is going to rock the NBA, this, that, and the other. So, there was a introduction, shall we say. They did it with LeBron, too, putting his high school games on ESPN, and at that time bringing in Dick Vitale and Bill Walton to commentate on the game on ESPN before having high school basketball games on the network was almost a semi-regular thing. But Victor Wembanyana is going to be that guy who is going to be over in France playing in the French league, I believe. He's going to be getting a lot of attention from ESPN and the NBA, and we're going to be hearing a lot about some Frenchman from France playing in the French league in terms of how he's going to be and what he's going to be doing in the NBA. A legitimate tank type of player. So teams that are going to be tanking for Wembanyana, San Antonio and Utah have already made their intentions clear. Look, we traded our best players, and we're rebuilding with the hope and prayers that we can get ourselves the first pick so we can get Wembanyana. Oklahoma City lost its number 2 pick for the entire season, Chet Holmgren, because of a foot injury. So it would be advantageous for them to get Wembanyana. Now, you could be sitting there talking about, well, already, Wendell, you're speaking about Minnesota having some questions about having 2 7-footers on the floor. Last time I checked, Chet Holmgren is 7 feet tall. So if the Oklahoma City Thunder win the lottery and pick themselves Wembanyana, then you're going to have a guy who's 7'1" and a guy who's 7'4" out there. How is that going to work? My theory and my thought about that is make it happen or trade one of them, which would be Chet Holmgren, because it's Wembanyana that you want. Other teams like Washington, Charlotte, Portland, Indiana, Orlando, Detroit, man, if the season starts going sideways and you see in February or March that you're probably not going to be making the playoffs, tank, 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 tank. Because you never know, man. Just because you have the worst record in the league, even with the modified rules to the lottery, even though you might not have the worst record, because I think San Antonio and Utah are going to be vying for that moniker. Hey, man, you never know how the ping pong balls. You can't win if you're not playing. So get in there and do your thing in terms of losing. I want my Washington Wizards to lose, because Victor Wembanyana in D.C. playing for my Wizards. Woo, that would be nice. How about this for the NBA? And it'll never happen. I'm going to end you with this. How about this for the NBA? How great would this be for the NBA? How great would this be for the league? Right? What happens if the New York Knicks? It'll never happen because Thibodeau would never let this happen. If the Knicks injury, I don't know, disappointment, I don't know. If the Knicks are in that position where it's kind of like, hey, look, man, we're just not good enough to make the playoffs. Man, what could the NBA do? How could they manipulate a situation where Victor Wembanyana goes to the New York Knicks? Would that be unbelievable for the league or what? It would be one of the biggest. It would be even bigger than my Patrick Ewing going to the New York Knicks back in the day. It would be awesome. It would be the biggest thunderbolt for the NBA, possibly, maybe. I don't even know. I mean, Shaq going to Orlando was Shaq going to Orlando. Orlando. It would probably be Kobe wasn't Kobe, so him getting traded to the Lakers from Charlotte during the draft. In fact, he was drafted number 12, so that wasn't like earth-shattering. What would it be? What would it be? What would it be? Would you have to go far back as Lou Alcindor being drafted by the Milwaukee? No, because it's the Milwaukee Bucks. They were a second-year expansion squad. But maybe Wilt Chamberlain? I don't know. Maybe a trade for Wilt Chamberlain or something like that? I don't know. But it would be like the biggest news, or it would be one of the biggest draft news in NBA history if the New York Knicks got themselves Victor Wembanyana. I'm just saying, man, it would be something else. So, yeah, man, I want to thank you so much for listening to my podcast, watching my podcast. I very much appreciate it. The NBA is in full swing, and in less than 3 weeks, my Georgetown Hoyas on November 8th start their season. Things are looking good. Things are looking fantastic. Things are looking wonderful. I can't wait. Woo! I can't wait. So I want to thank you so much for listening to my podcast. As always, and watching my podcast, as always, do what we need to do to make this world a better place to be. If you could please do me a favor, my generation, could we please listen to folks who are different from us? Can we please listen to the younger generation and learn something? Can we please listen to people who are not of the same age, of the same race, of the same gender? Can we please listen to somebody from a different part of the world? Can we please listen to somebody who has some knowledge to give us? Can we reciprocate in doing that with them also, so we can learn, so we can grow about each other, so we can realize that our existence in this world is not your block, is not your neighborhood, is not your community, is not even your state or your city, man. We are part of the world. Learn as much about the world and people from all over the world as humanly possible, so then we can go ahead and learn and teach and grow with unity, with love, with harmony, with respectfulness for all. No bigotry, no racism, no misogyny, none of that nonsense. Education is the key. Learning, listening, and doing what we need to do to make this world a better place, so our younger generations can live in a utopian society where we are truly based on who we are as human beings, what is in our heart, and not based on our age, or not based on how much money we have, or not based on our political affiliation, or not based on our gender or our race or anything like that. If we could do that, it would be awesome. Wendell Wallace, Wendell's World in Sports. Thank you so much for listening. Get me out of here with some music.